Welcome back. Today we're going to talk about, do you like to use natural oils or synthetic oils to swab out your clarinet? So when I first started making barrels and bells, this is basically a block of wood. I researched what did the manufacturers do? What did Selmer, Paris, Buffet, and all the other manufacturers do? And they had videos out there that would show what they basically did. They basically took a block of wood, they cut it down to a cylinder, and they usually drilled the bore out in the middle of it, and then they put them in these large vats, these pressurized vats of oil, and they basically use linseed oil, like this boiled linseed oil right here.
Chez lycée Crampon, nos clarinettes sont fabriquées en ébène du Mozambique. Tout le bois est stocké dans nos ateliers avant d'entamer plusieurs étapes de fabrication. Il sera d'abord dégrossi, puis traité, ensuite tourné, poncé et pointé. Première étape du traitement, le séchage du bois. Nous plaçons les corps sur des chariots et les chariots dans une étuve. L'objectif de cette phase est que le bois arrive à son état d'équilibre. Ensuite, la deuxième phase du traitement est l'imprégnation. Nous sortons les corps de l'étuve et les plaçons dans des paniers. Ces paniers vont ensuite aller dans des cuves et être traités avec de l'huile de lin. L'objectif de ce traitement est d'améliorer la stabilité de notre bois et par conséquent de diminuer le risque de sang.
And I ran tests, and I would run tests on the absorption rate because I didn't have a pressurized cooker. I guess I could use a pressurized cooker too. But I use absorption rate tests using basically a pill bottle that would fit barrels into it to see how much oiling would affect things. And I found out that some woods, the softer woods, would absorb too much oil and get actually soft and squishy soft too, versus like African blackwood. So that kind of led me down of how to manufacture and prepare wood before you actually end up cutting it to make barrels. But the question comes down to when you're actually playing an instrument and you play it all the time, should you use a natural like almond oil? Like this is almond oil here. And I used to use almond oil all the time, cold pressed almond oil. Or do you use a synthetic bore oil? Like this is a Selmer one. See? Or even some like doctor's products. I remember I tested doctor's products back when it first came out. Came in little vials, and it did well, but it was very expensive. So I just stuck to regular oils here. But I also used to be a big advocate of almond oil, cold pressed almond oil you get from Whole Foods or another um, place where you can get it fresh. But then when I was using my bore scope the other year, and I'll see if I can bring up the video of it. I was bore scoping the clarinet, and I came across patches of mold in the inside of the bore, and that really was from the almond oil. And I wasn't playing it all the time, so I would play it for some, put it aside because I also have multiple clarinets too. And that really worried me because I know normally what you do when you come across a clarinet. This one doesn't have it, but may have like green fungus on the side, something like that. Is you can use synthetic bore oil and just a Q-tip, and it'll just kill it right off right away. So I basically swab the inside and all the tone holes and the undercutting with synthetic bore oil to get rid of that mold in the clarinet. And ever since then, I stopped using almond oil. Who would want to use something that could affect your health? So I've stopped using almond oil, but I'm curious what other people out there use. Because now when people ask me, I say, well, I use synthetic oils. And true, these are just basically, when you read the ingredients in the back, like this old one, it's simply mineral oil. Basically food grade mineral oil. I'm not sure how old this bottle is. It's from the Selmer company, and I kind of found it in a box, and I have another one that's probably just as old. Um, Probably 40, 50 years old. But, I came across also, Micro had a bore oil too. You can get bore oil at any music store. The mold in my clarinet really immediately switched me, like I said, from natural almond oil, cold pressed almond oil, to synthetic. Now, as I mentioned before, you don't need to oil your clarinet all the time. Usually, you want to check and watch out for your barrel, the top part of your barrel here, on the bottom part, and a little bit of the upper joint you want to look into, and make sure that these get oiled every so often. Usually, the closer you are to the player, the more you oil it. The reason for that is when you breathe into the instrument, you blow into the instrument, your breath has water in it. And the reason you use bore oil is you want the wood to absorb the oil to prevent the water from penetrating the wood. Because if you ever if you have a wood deck, as an example, what happens when it gets wet with water? Well, usually you use a oil stain to prevent water penetration, otherwise it starts deteriorating the wood. And so you don't want to induce water to penetrate into the wood. Plus, if too much water penetrates into the wood and you live in a cold environment, what happens with water when it freezes? It starts expanding as it gets colder, and that will create cracks. So, real briefly, jumping on to that with the water thing, is I know people buy those little packets to hydrate your clarinet with water in your case. I don't understand that at all, because it comes back to you oil your clarinet to prevent water penetration. So you don't want to introduce water to the clarinet. So those hydration packs, I don't understand why people use them. But anyways, do you use a natural oil? Do you use a synthetic oil? What do you recommend to clients that you may have? Or what do you use, and why do you use it? Do you use hydration packs at all? Because I'm really curious. When those came in the marketplace, I thought to myself, why would anyone use those? Because you use oil to prevent water into the wood. Um, has anyone ever had a clarinet just crack from you don't know why? Well, I'm sure many have. A lot of times, clarinets will crack for a variety of reasons. One is, usually if you have a cold clarinet, when it's cold, it shrinks a little bit. So it's kind of compressing on itself. When you blow hot air through it, the bore is warming up a lot quicker than the surface is. So as the bore warms up, it's expanding a bit, and the surface is still compressing a bit from being cold. And at some point, the inner part of the bore more gets warm and expanding more, and then you'll just hear this snap, and it'll just crack right then and there. I've had players bring me instruments where they said, yeah, they were playing along, usually in the winter time, warming up or playing some music, and then all of a sudden, bam, they hear a snap. They didn't know what it was, and it was basically a crack, just popping out of nowhere. But back to oil. Oil won't freeze like water does. It may freeze, but at a much, much lower temperature. So that's also another protectant for wintertime playing, where it won't really cause issues of being in the wood like water would. So there's my quick, I guess you can call it a quick tip, is use synthetic boar oil, not almond oil or other natural oils, olive oil, whatever you may want to use. Because, like I said, until I put a borescope down my clarinet, I didn't realize I had mold in it from the almond oil. And to get rid of mold, use mineral oil basically. Questions or comments? Let's see what your perception is of it. Do you use almond oil or regular boar oil, synthetic boar oil? By the way, mineral oil is a petrochemical. So you want to get a food grade one if you don't buy one from the music store directly. That hopefully should be food grade, I hope. You read specs about food grade, and there's a lot of things there where, I mean, you don't want to drink it, and you don't want to really keep it on your hands and stuff. It's just there for if you accidentally touch it, you should be fine. But what are your perceptions of why would you use almond oil or synthetic petrochemical mineral oil as an example for your clarinet? How long have you been doing? Have you ever had any problems with it? Do you use those hydration packs at all for your clarinet too? You know, it's really an interesting question because I know hydration packs have become popular as of late, and to keep the clarinet hydrated from shrinking, because you don't want the rings to fall off, but then you should be maybe oiling it a bit more than you're apparently not. So that's basically my take on it. Is I use purely synthetic boar oil now, and for reasons that I don't want to inhale mold, basically. So questions and comments, put it down below, and I hope that's a good tip, and hope players switch to synthetics, because I don't want anyone inhaling mold like I was for a while, I guess. Anyways, have a good day, and we'll talk to you later. Anyways, I want to thank you for listening today. Any questions or comments, please post them down below. Don't forget to give a thumbs up, like, share, and subscribe. You gotta love knowledge, gotta love life, gotta love clarinets. We'll see you next time.